Hi, Erica. Thank you so much for connecting with us in this episode today. I'm really excited to know more about yourself and the topic we're going to discuss today. So, how are you doing today?
I'm so good. I'm so excited. I think we're gonna have a lot of fun, and I think it's a really important topic. So I'm excited to
Yeah,
dive in and discuss it.
yeah, absolutely. You work with a women's mostly in your coaching business, and the topic you want to cover today, which is like a body confidence for a woman. So, before we get to that, how you got started in the coaching business and helping other women, other uh, helping others, especially.
Yeah, I always was interested in, self-help and yoga and all that stuff, but I was like, that's fun. That's fun. Like that's a side,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, like this is just a side fun hobby, and I kept ignoring it. And then I had a really think we kind of all, a lot of us have these like, like come to our knees moments of like, oh my God, I
Mhm.
can't keep living this way. And I had one of those years. I had friends pass away. I was dealing with some really, hard stuff around body image. A family member was diagnosed with cancer. Like all the things were happening at once.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, you can either like you have an opportunity here to live in a different way.
Mhm.
And so actually with the family member that had the cancer diagnosis, I actually really started to get into, holistic and spiritual, and it started to unravel, again with no
Yeah.
intention of having a business, just like slowly started to unravel in front of me, which is so that's the best way, when it just magically starts to take and form its own life.
Yeah, absolutely. So before you get into like a coaching business, what do you actually used to do? Do you had a corporate career or any kind of jobs or business prior to that?
Yeah. Yeah, so I actually worked with my dad for many years, but what's funny is I also was an actor. I still am,
All
but that
right.
was, like, my main focus, like, acting, 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 and
Yeah.
that's why when this business was started, I mean, I thought I was gonna be an actor since I was 8 years old. So when this business was starting to form, part of me was so
Mhm.
excited because it was, like, organically unraveling, and then another piece of me was like, "No, no, 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 Erica, like, you're supposed to be an actor, like, what do you like you're getting sidetracked, you're getting distracted." So it was an interesting, like how do we what do we do with this? Like
Yeah.
what do we do? It's hard to balance and figure it
Yeah.
out, but so that was definitely up for me as well.
Yeah. It's like taking the time figuring out like who you want to be and like what your passion is until you
Yep.
actually do it. Like you don't know like which path to go. And yeah, it's interesting theory. Like I had to go through many of the careers like before I actually find out like what actually like most. So
Yeah.
it's a long journey. For most people, like even though they're 40, 50 years old, still figuring out who they want to be. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and it's such a get like, I'm like, "Oh, this is so," I mean, some exactly, like, 56 some people never discover that,
Mhm.
they have a corporate job, which there's nothing wrong with that, but,
Yeah.
they have a corporate job or they put their head down and they just do so it's like, even though this was stressful and it's still some days I'm like, "What am I doing?"
Yeah.
Some days I'm like, it's such a gift that I actually have the ability to be able to do this and to help people. It really is a privilege and it really is a gift.
Yeah. That's great. So what made you do you specifically work with like a woman or do you work with everyone?
Everyone, because
Yeah.
here's the thing, like, of course, I actually do have more women coming through the door and
Mhm.
actually, like, sign the contract to, like, "I wanna work with you." But, everyone's affected by this. Everyone's
Yeah.
affected by body image. Everyone's affected by confidence. So, yeah, everyone's affected by dating and empowerment. So, my door is open to whoever feels called and is like, "I resonate with Erica." My door is open and they're welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's get to the topic. That's the interesting topic. We're gonna talk about most people don't even discuss about that. They don't even realize it was the actual problem is, which is like a body confidence, and that
Yes.
leads to a lot of problem. I see especially with a woman nowadays, even though with their men's as well. They're not confident to approach in a relationship, or even though they're in a relationship, still oh, my husband is loving me, or my wife is attracted to me, or not. That a lot of conflict is happening. So in terms of a body confidence, what do you what does it actually defines in your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I also, it's especially if someone's dealing with like body hate,
Hmm.
and they're like really critical and really mean to themselves. I start with getting them to neutral. Like, cause it's sometimes it's so aggressive to be like, I hate myself, Erica. Don't rip me from that spot to like
Yeah.
love, love, love. Like, so it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, that's the end goal. But sometimes like that feels too aggressive. So it's like, let's just get to body neutrality. Like, can we be
Mhm.
grateful, for the senses that you do have? Can you be grateful that your body, without even thinking, can breathe and process food? And everyone's different, right? So some people can do that, some people can't do that.
Yeah.
But regardless of what where your body's at, there are things that are happening that we can be grateful for. And so that's my first, like, let's get neutral, and
Yeah.
like, let's just get neutral and celebrate what is happening and what is winning, even if, like I said, even if there is chronic illness or something wrong. Like, can we celebrate what the body is naturally doing on its own? And then we could add like, I'm beautiful, I'm fabulous, I'm handsome. Like, we could add all of that after, but we kind of have to get to neutral first and be like, oh, cool. Like, my body's doing really cool things. Like, I deserve to be celebrated. And then we
Mhm.
could kind of add on, the jazz on top of like, I'm beautiful. All of that stuff. But I don't like to rip people from one place to another because sometimes it feels so aggressive. So I like to like
Yeah.
gently hold them and guide them, on the path.
Yeah, and it's not actually easy for like people to overcome when being like positive in the situation they're in. Like some could be like a over 20 pound extra on like overweight. And we can say like, oh, you're supposed to be confident on your body and it's fine, just ignore everyone else. But it's not the case because I've been through that situation when I was like about 8, 9 years old. I was overweight, and from school to teachers, like everyone bullied me, like and
Mm,
being overweight as everyone like a fat and everything everywhere I go. So I had to deal with like 4 or 5 years. Then I was like, enough is enough. I need to make some changes on myself, and I lost it all. Then again, about 2 years back, I diagnosed with the IBD and my asthma gone really bad. So I couldn't do
mm,
exercise, and I used to work in a restaurant. So I used to be fast paced. I was a chef there, and working from like a home and office space is it just everything gone a different category. And I got about 30 pounds, about 25 or 26 kg extra within like a 3 months span of time. And people around me looking at me was like, what's going on? And they're thinking like I recently got married because of that I'm eating and too much, and that's why I'm getting them extra weight. But it wasn't the case. It's just the illness for people to understand it. And even though
yes.
when I said like I'm gonna ignore it, it sometimes used to affect me and like
Yeah.
confidence wise. And you can't really explain to them everyone, right? So what's
Yep.
going through their mind, and you can't really explain to them. So if someone's like going through that kind of situation, what do you actually advise to them? What would be like a process as a your life coach?
Yeah, I do how I work with people is I try to hit on different points. So we do talk
Mhm.
therapy, right? So it's like traditional talk therapy where we kind of work through some of this stuff. I also do embodiment. Like,
Right.
embodiment to me is really big. So it's like, yes, let's talk, let's like blah, get out all the stuff, but I
Yeah.
also want you to feel in your body. And then another piece, I also like, we do emotional, we also do mindset. So I want to make sure like all hands on deck, because you know the deal, especially something as triggering as body image. It
Yeah.
kind of hits it hits everywhere. It hits the mindset. It hits, I don't feel like I'm allowed to be my body. So I set it up in a way where my clients feel like they're being taken care of across the board. And also my program, and I'm happy to talk about this later, is very immersive, right?
Mhm.
Like, I'm not one that's like, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Like, if they want it, I'm like, I'm here, so I talk to my clients every week, whether it be sessions or check-ins or, on an app, like just to check in how they are. And so I say that, and I'm saying that to answer that, like, I'm always there,
Yeah.
because here's the thing, we're going to be triggered. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to be triggered. So that's why I'm like, hi, I'm in your pocket if you need me, because we might be walking and be like, I'm the most confident, I'm the most amazing. And then like something happens and it triggers us and it spirals us out. So I'm like, hey, I'm here to support you. Some like basic things that I do is I help them, like, I give them tools to, like I talked about, to neutralize,
Right.
and then to fall in love with themselves, like some silly things like compliment yourself every time, 3 times every time you pass a mirror. I
Mhm.
do an exercise where they're monitoring their thoughts, and when it's like, I'm disgusting, I'm this, it's like, "Duh," like we're stopping those thoughts and we're
Yeah.
flipping them, so it's all hands on deck. But I make sure that, like, that's really, it's hard work, and it's a lot of years of unraveling. So I tell everyone, like, be patient. This thing is not going to happen overnight, and we live in a society that hits us over the head. So you might be like, I'm progressing. And then boom, social media, boom, TV, kind of, you're like, oh, maybe I am wrong. So it is a continuous process. And if people are doing it, that's amazing in itself. And the good news
Yeah.
is it works. Once you commit to doing it, it does work. I want to give people faith that it does work.
Yeah, that's really great. Like another question which I have, we see often, even though this generation probably last 5, 6 years now, it's like a kind of trend. People don't like the way they look, and the way they're like an extra weight or something, or their lips, how they look, how their noses looks. They're making the
Yeah.
changes, like lots of surgeries and everything, which is most often at times like after that you see like a lot of medication medical issues happening, like people diagnosed with a cancer or like a kind of next level diseases, and we are not confident enough in our body. That's why we're making them kind of changes, which is like absolutely not good for our health. So those is going through them kind of situation, how they can change their mindset, like who am I, how God been created me, I need to be happy with that situation. I know like if someone's overweight or too skinny, getting an extra healthy weight, that makes sense because you're doing it for your day-to-day activity. That's totally fine. But changing like a skin color to changing overall the way you look because of like the trend is going on or because the other person is thinking about you, how do you tell them like how the approach should be?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's also I don't push anyone. I have my like specific views
Yeah.
on what I think. And I am open to whatever, so I have people that are like, some women clients that don't wear any makeup and they work, I
Mhm.
want to age gracefully. And I'm like, great, I support you. And I've had clients that get lots of plastic surgery.
Yeah.
And I do ask them, I'm like, okay, let's talk about this first. And actually, I have a client, that was like, okay, I'm not going to do this because, we talked about it, I'm not going to do this, but I really do want to do this one thing. And I'm like, okay, I support you. So I am down to support where everyone and where anyone is, as long as there's consciousness behind it.
Right.
But where it's, so if they're like, you know what, I understand why it's a little wacky, but like for this one thing, I do want to do it. I'm like, okay, it does get, a little like when it's like it starts because I see sometimes, and I've seen clients where it starts the spiral. Like, well, since I did this, I have to do this. And then since I did this, I have to do that. So it's like
Yeah.
I always want to be like, hey, I support whatever decision you want to make. But like, can we add some consciousness to this? Like, what do we think about this? Like, again, I support you in whatever choice makes you feel good. But can we get to a place of you feeling good anyway? And then let's make that choice. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like asking them, do they actually know like what they're actually doing? Is it for
Right.
themselves or doing it for like others? Or do you know the consequences going to be happen if you get these things done? Like, are you aware of
Totally.
that? Or are you just going for it like because it's the trend, or you're going for it like your partner is telling you or friends telling you to do it? So
Right.
yeah, yeah, asking them
Yes.
question is does make a difference. So in terms of like how does like a body confidence affect the relationship? So we oftentimes we see like because of the we tend to stay in a difficult relationship with probably like the spouse or like it's a toxic relationship, but we're staying there because we're looking at ourselves in the mirror like, am I going to be accepted if I date someone else or if I move on? Most of the cases, like a woman stay on a kind of relationship, they think about, oh, I'm getting too old, or like how I used to be look 10 years back, I don't look that way right now. That confidence level affecting them to move forward for like a better relationship.
Oh my God, completely. Like completely. And that's why I'm like, first of all, that's why I'm like, this work is so
Mhm.
important because
Yeah.
whether you're dating or you're in a relationship, it doesn't matter. But that shows up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when you're dating and you feel insecure and you show up on the date, like, you don't have to pick me, like that's a whole energy. And then when you're in a relationship and you're like I'm not worthy, like it comes out in weird ways. So that's why I'm like, we have to address it. And that's why, if you read about my, any of the listeners read about my work, it's body confidence, but it's also pleasure and turn
Yeah.
on and radiance. And that's a big part of this conversation too, that they're not like, oh, I was so beautiful 20 years ago. It was like, I was so beautiful 20 years ago, and teach them to turn on the radiance, and like, even in this body, I can be fabulous, and I can, you know what I'm saying? So it's
Yeah,
teaching them and giving them the tools to have that, because it's funny, right? Because it's like, oh, I have some body confidence issues. I'm going to put that to the side. I'm going to put that on the back burner. It's like, I'm like, people know, because it comes out, and it comes out in work, it comes out in relationships, it comes out in friendships, it comes out everywhere. So if there's something that feels misaligned, I always encourage people, like, I know it's annoying, but let's do it now. You know what I mean? Because it
yeah.
does affect, and it does put weight on other areas of your life that it doesn't feel good. So I'm like, I think it's ready to be changed. It's ready to be loved and to be looked at.
Yeah, that's the interesting point you talked about. Like also, like I would want to know, probably my audience would be curious to know about how does it actually affect on a career wise, like a work wise, we're working, work
Yeah.
placement or getting a new job probably. And we think like, oh, this is the job I cannot do because let's say as a receptionist, oh, I don't look that part, like I'm not pretty enough, because there is a lot of self-doubt and everything. So how does it actually affecting people on like moving forward with their career?
Yeah, I mean, it really does. I've seen people feel like, that are in sales, and they're like, "Ah, no one's gonna buy from me. I'm schlumpy, or I'm this, or I'm that," or
Mhm.
people don't feel worthy, pretending corporate of, I'm not worthy of asking for a raise, and
Yeah.
we don't think it, right? It's not our first thought. We think business or work is productivity. And sure, there's a big, obviously, component of that. But when you don't feel worthy of, your looks, it starts to bleed in worth, period. Right. So if
Mm.
you're like, you could feel like so smart, but you could feel like, oh, I'm ugly, I'm this. Once you tell yourself that narrative
Yeah.
over and over and over and over, like, that's just compounds. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's over and over, and it compounds and compounds. It starts to bleed into everything else. And so even though you're like, I know I'm really a great worker, but then there's this other story alive that's like, yeah, but I'm not worthy. I'm not, because you've been telling yourself that you're not worthy for so long. So you're not going to ask for the raise, or maybe you'll ask for the raise, but it feels like choppy, or, there's just, it's an energy thing. Like, you don't feel like fully, like you're allowed to take up space and be seen. And it's like, you don't feel worthy of that. So it truly affects almost every area of your life. That's why it's so important to address it if you can.
Yeah. And I see like stopping like a great content creator right now is like a content era. So everyone
Yes.
on a TikTok, YouTube videos, but oftentimes uh, we see a lot of people, they got great body shape and everything, the way they look and dresses up. We oftentimes think about, oh, I'm not going to be able to become an influencer. I'm not able to do the TikTok videos or YouTube videos because the way I look, the way
Mhm.
I dress up. But you have like a great gift. Some people can talk about like a personal development, or they dealt with their loss, or like any kind of like experience. Like you can be a doctor and talk about some kind of diseases, how to like take
Right.
care of. Yeah, but the reason is like we're not confident enough to show ourselves on the platform like YouTube, TikTok. We tend to be like not doing the activity and just step back all the time and don't reach our true potential. Do you see
Yes,
that with your
it's
clients?
oh, all the time. It's funny. I'm actually thinking back to when I was getting, I have a million certifications and trainings, but the
Yeah.
last one I remember, we went through this huge process of how to teach and hold space for people. And at the end,
Mm.
there's a business intensive.
Yeah.
And the teacher was very, she was very successful on YouTube. And the objections of the students, so many were, I can't, I'll do another medium, I can't be on YouTube, I'll be crucified for my looks, I'll be ripped apart. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, this is so, and she's like, it's so funny that that's the objection isn't, I don't want to do the work, that's a pain in the butt. It's more like people are like, no, 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 I don't want to be seen, I don't want to put myself out there and get ripped to shreds. And so
Yeah.
I totally see that being a thing. And it's funny, I want to comment on this because, like I said, I have every walk of life come in through my door or through my Zoom room for clients, like every single type of person. And, when they walk in, so many, different type, I'm like, wow, they're so beautiful or handsome, or that, like, what a great looking person, just amazing person.
Yeah.
And then they open up and they're like, I hate this, I hate this, and I'm like, what? And I share that to, like, normalize this, because I think, especially with social media, we tell, like, ourselves, oh, I'm the one that's wrong, but they're all thrilled, they're all happy with themselves, they really love themselves. And like
Yeah.
when you start to look, I see it all the time, people I would never ever expect are also ripping themselves to shreds. So I want to normalize this conversation, like, no, don't put people on a pedestal. Like we don't know other people's stories and like we don't know where other
Yeah.
people are at.
Yeah. So like when someone comes with the problem they're having with the body confidence, like they want to coach by you, what's the first step you take, or like the questions you ask to them if you get on
That's a
way
great
to the problem?
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I really do try to, well, I also love to focus on the areas, well, I'll say this, that they like already. So again, I
Mhm.
don't want to like jump to crazy like,
Yeah.
okay, let's celebrate areas that you do. And I am a big proponent of celebrating. So I have them celebrate and brag on themselves, every day to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right. And they're like, no, I don't want to celebrate myself. And I'm like, it's just me, like it's safe. So I have them celebrate themselves, areas that they already like. So maybe like, I hate my stomach, but my hair is okay. I'm like, cool, let's get
Mm.
behind your hair, so it feels safe. And then we'll slowly build up to, if they hate their tummy, okay, great. Let's get to that space of neutralization. Like I talked about, maybe instead of being, like fully in with the tummy, maybe it's, I go with it. And this is advice I always say, it's like, go with childlike wonder. Like
Yeah.
put your childlike eyes and ears on, and be like, instead of being like, I'm not like flat tummy tea, it's like, oh, I love the color of my tummy, I love the texture, I love that it folds here. So we start with that, and again, then we progress to a more loving space. But
Yeah.
it's a whole process. So there's tools, there's talk therapy, like there's lots of different
Yeah.
things that we do. But again, the good news is I never thought I would be where I am now, and I
Mhm.
did it, and I see clients do it. So for anyone that's like, that sounds nice, but you don't know how much I hate myself. I'm like, no, I promise I do. And the good news is this is available for you. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
available, and that's great news.
Yeah, it is. And so like when it comes down to what do you see like actual problem is there? Is it like emotionally most of the time, or do we see like a physically needs to make any changes, or do you guide them through
Emotionally.
emotionally? Yeah.
Emotionally. Yeah. Because like there's people just ripping themselves to shreds. And we just
Mhm.
find things like, okay, I worked on this and I hate this and and it's just, so it's an emotional thing, and it's a
Yeah.
mindset thing. Because it's like, once you have one negative thought, it's easy to pick, or one judgmental thought of yourself, it's easy to pick and pick and pick, and then it just totally spirals out. So it's an emotional thing. It's sometimes could be a trauma thing,
Right.
like that could be its own conversation.
Yeah.
It can be an abuse thing. It could be a mindset thing. So and that's why this work is so specific and tailored for the client, because everyone's journey looks so different from one another.
Yeah. Yeah. So that leads to my another question, which is going to be related, and same time it'll be like a difference. Like how long does it actually take for seeing some changes on them? Like if someone's come to you and they have the issue, how long actually takes the same process to make the changes, get the confidence back on their body and the way they used to be think and change totally different?
Yeah, it depends how aggressively, and aggressive sounds too much, but like how much
Yeah.
you want to commit to the work. Because I have people that are like, I just want to put my foot in. I'm like, that's fine, but no,
Mhm.
it's not going to happen tomorrow. And then I have people that are like, I'm scared,
Yeah.
but I'm going full in. And obviously, no is better than another, but I would encourage, like, let's go full in, let's go full in. And so here's the thing, like, you do start to notice small changes kind of right away, because if you're so used to making yourself wrong and making yourself bad, and I'm teaching you tools to celebrate yourself and be kind to yourself, again, it may not be the end result, but things do start to shift. So you're like, again, it might not be the end, but you're like, oh, things are happening. Like, okay, this is different. I do, however, recommend, because a lot of coaches do one offs, and I just think there's so much to unpack. I don't like to
Yeah.
do that, but there's not, like, personally in my practice, other coaches, that's great that they do. Um, so I like to do a minimum of 6 months working together, just because there's
Right.
so much to unpack.
Yeah.
Like there's so much to unpack. Again, I'm happy to make like adjustments if people are like, "Can we do 3 months?" I'm like, okay, fine. But I do recommend 6 months just so we could like really get in there. But like I said, if you're so used to beating yourself up and I give you tools right
Mhm.
away to be kind to yourself, maybe you're not 110% kind to yourself, but you're like, oh wow, this is a different world. Like you at
Yeah.
least your eyes are open to it. It may you not might not be fully in right away, but at least your eyes are open. So it's funny, it can happen quickly. And then, if we really go into the 6 months and do it, that's when it's like, whoa, deep, rich, lasting changes that are happening.
Yeah, so the journey will be different for every individual, right? Depending where they are with their life, uh, how much they into the situation they are in. Like if they mentally doesn't make that shift, then takes a long, long time, isn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. And like you said, everyone's on their own path, and
Yeah,
I think the process speeds up when you work with someone. Cuz I've done both. Like I've worked with people and then I've done it alone. And when you do it alone it's great, but it
mhm,
takes long.
yeah,
It takes longer, I should say. Where if you have a coach or holding someone holding space for you, they're holding you accountable, they're putting a mirror up to you, and the process just moves so much quicker. And I think it's less painful. And I obviously support that option if people could swing it.
yeah, absolutely. And so, do you think like is the same pattern goes with the men as well as like a
Yes.
woman, or like is more with the woman, or like a same similar?
Different. That's a good question. Different. Like insecurities are hit in different ways.
Hmm.
So for women, I think it's kind of more bopped in our face more, but
Right.
also we can so is for men too, so I can't say it's not just a one gender conversation because it's really not, we're
Yeah.
all affected by this. um what I do see with the men is more of like making themselves wrongs for performing. So like I'm not productive enough. I'm not a good lover. I'm not this. So it's like that's
Yeah.
more of the negative self-talk. Maybe like, gosh, I don't love this about my body, but it's more grouped in with like I'm not. I should be better in bed, or I should be working harder. So it's like it's the
Hmm.
same things happening, but a different
Yeah.
story, if that makes sense. So it's like
Yeah.
we're all suffering, but telling ourselves a little bit of a different narrative, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like every individual having like a different kind of like a situation is going on. Some could be sexual, some could be the way they look, some could be like the way they are behaving and everything, like in the way they
Yeah.
walk, the way they talk. It's everything like kind of similar to the body confidence, right?
Exactly. And that's why this work is so important because we're all
Yeah.
affected by it in different ways, like different flavors, different textures, but we're all affected by it. That's why I love this work because I'm like, let me help as many people as I
Mhm.
can, like it's super important.
Yeah, when they made the actual change, so you probably have like a few people you already made the changes, and you
Yeah.
probably ask after them, how does it feel like after having the changes on them?
So good. And I think so many people are like, I'm going to sign up for this, but I don't like, is this really going to work? And I think their
Mhm.
minds are blown because they're like, I was expecting, like, I would have been happier if I was felt 10% more confident. And they're like,
Yeah,
oh my God. And me as a coach, like, I'm very about, I don't just, yeah, like take this lightly. I know this is big stuff. So I
right.
make sure, like, at the end of our contract, I want them to feel like I got everything and more, like, or if not,
Yeah.
I'm like, hi, how can I serve you? Like, let's figure out a way that I could really serve you and make you feel that way. But it's so exciting. I'm just thinking like people are running through my head and I'm thinking about like how their life truly, I mean, completely changed from like
Mhm.
self-hate and judgment to like taking up space and feeling, like worthy and deserving. It's like it's kind of mind-boggling. Like the people that walked in and then, they've always been this way, but they finally are starting to show up like that, and it's just so exciting.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. And yeah, so those who are listening, our audiences, if you like to tell them a few words about their body confidence, what would that be?
That's so good. My few words is that you know, this is corny, but like you are worthy, you are deserving, you do deserve to love yourself and celebrate yourself, you know, and we all deserve that. And the good news, if
Yeah.
you feel like that's not available, because I know I felt like that, like that's nice, Erica, but that's not for me. I promise it is. I promise it may feel very far away, but if you do want to work on it, it can change. And you know, I'll end with this, like this is not a dress rehearsal. Like we can go tomorrow. We
Yeah.
don't know. You know what I mean? Like, would it be great if we lived till 95? Yes. But you know, for some people, yes. But like we don't know. So this is it. Like this is it. So it's like stop putting feeling good on the back burner. Like you're alive now. Like this is the time to feel good, to enjoy your life. So I'm like, that's
Yeah.
why you know this work is so important, because you're worthy, you're deserving of having a life that you love, point blank. So that's my cliff notes of what I would say.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. So we are running out of time for this podcast. So if anyone wants to work with you or reach out to you, learn more about you, how they can find out.
Yeah. So I have I'll give 3 little points of where they can reach out. If you're like, I don't want to talk to you, I just want to stalk your content, I totally understand. Follow me on Instagram. That's at we the light underscore LLC. I also made a free book. So that way, again,
Right.
you don't need to talk about me. You
Yeah.
talk to me. You know, it's like, and this is all about what we talked about. It's like pleasure and feeling good. It's totally free, and you can go download it. And that's at www.wethelight.org. Or if you're feeling inspired by this conversation and want to like talk more and get excited, I open up every month a handful of sessions that
Mhm.
are free, no strings attached, and then I close them. So, with that
Yeah.
being said, hop on the website and get one for free. It's no strings attached. It's totally free. What we will do is I'll give you tools, I'll give you things, you know, to work through, so you actually feel like you can start this. And if we are matched to work together, we are. If we're not, great. But go before it fills up. And that's at
Yeah.
www.wethelight.org. And on that website, like I said, tons of free resources. You have my free book, you have my blog, I have a podcast coming. So there's tons of free stuff you can get in there. You can get the free session. Like there's tons of resources for you to start. I want you to feel like you can start. So get to the website and start there and reach out to me. I'm here to support whoever feels called and needs the support. Know that I'm here.
That's great. When your podcast coming?
It's actually coming in Halloween, so like 2 weeks.
That's great. Do you have
Thank
the
you.
podcast name already set?
Yes. So my name is Erica Wiederlight. My business is We the Light. So
Okay.
it's welcome to the Weeder life. So it's
Okay.
yes, all about, you know,
Yeah,
the
they can
lifestyle.
go
The
check
lifestyle.
out when it
Yes.
goes live. They can go check out. It'll be available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, right?
Yep, exactly. And they can find, it'll also be on the website first. So if they want to hop to the website, they could just hop right into, but look up Welcome to the Weeder Life, like you said, Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, that's great. So guys, go check out Erica on her podcast as well when it goes live. Will be on Halloween, so end of the month. And yeah, also like go visit her website and social media if you want to learn more about her. Also, you want to work with her or get consultation or any kind of help, just reach out or check her books as well. So yeah, Erica, thank you so much for taking the time out for our audience and me. Obviously, I learned a lot from you as well. So I really appreciate it. And I wish you good luck with your new podcast and career as well.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
You're most welcome. That's a wrap, guys. So till then, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll talk to you in next episode. Thank you.